What if the problem isn't you, but the system and science you've been taught to believe? Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Obesity Project, episode 33. Today, I'm deciding to do this outside. I know you've got the picture behind me, but if you hear the birds chirping in the background, just thought I would shoot a video outside, see how it goes. Today, the episode 33 is the obesity isn't about willpower, it's the truth behind weight. So, if obesity was simply about laziness or willpower, wouldn't we have solved it by now? Most people desperately want to lose weight. They try dieting, they go to the gym, they skip meals, and yet the weight always seems to come back. This episode will completely shift your thinking about obesity because what if the problem isn't you, but the system and science you've been taught to believe? So, quick stat in the US, over 42% of adults are obese, many of them trying very hard to lose weight. So, clearly, this isn't about effort, it's about biology. And we're going to go into that biology here now. So, obesity is not a character flaw. The belief that people are fat because they're lazy or lack self control is not only harmful, it's scientifically false. So there was a patient of mine that I spoke to, and I did mention that I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgery. So I'm not a physician. I don't treat diabetes. I don't treat obesity, but I do talk quite a bit about obesity as an oral and maxillofacial surgeon because I do anesthesia and I have to look at people's airways and I have to talk to them about their weight and the likelihood that they're going to have problems breathing under anesthesia in the office setting. Just a little background on what I do and why I kind of went into this field was that I do anesthesia without a breathing tube. So in a hospital, you get a breathing tube, you're on a ventilator, and you have a machine breathing for you, and you have inhaled gases that keep you asleep. When you have outpatient procedures like oral surgery or like GI or any of these, like endoscopies or colonoscopies, then you have anesthesia where you're breathing spontaneously and you're not actually, you don't have a breathing tube in and you need to be able to breathe on your own. So I routinely talk to people about their weight. I routinely look at their airways and I routinely make sure that it's going to be safe in an outpatient environment for them to have this procedure done. And so there was a patient of mine, Susan, who told me that she felt like a failure when I was discussing weight with her. She said she tried every diet out there, but every single day she struggled with her weight. She still continued to gain weight, and her doctor just told her to try harder. And that really wasn't the answer. Understanding insulin resistance is. All right, so I want to talk about a study. There was a study by Baumeister et al. In 1998, which showed that willpower is like a muscle, that it weakens with stress, with hunger, fatigue. It is finite. You cannot rely on it forever. It'll work in the short term, but over the long term, your hunger, your you'll lose the ability for that willpower to stay strong and keep you moving in the right direction. And the other thing you have to understand is that modern food is designed to overcome willpower. So how are you supposed to resist something that's chemically engineered to override your brain? Our foods are tested in food labs to be irresistible, to never make you feel satiated. And because the more that you eat of that food, of course, the more you're going to buy it and the more let's try that again, the more money that company is going to make, right? So it's chemically engineered to override your hormones and your brain. So let's look under the hood. Obesity is driven by hormones, not by discipline. And there are some key hormones that we need to talk about. And of course, the granddaddy of them all is insulin. Insulin causes you to store fat. And chronically high insulin absolutely prevents you from going into a fat burning mode. Insulin says there's food coming in. We need to store this for later use. But if you chronically and continuously feed your body those carbohydrates, the insulin levels will stay high, causing you to constantly be storing, even if the energy is not coming in. You're going to constantly continue to put that blood glucose into fat and then into storage. There was a study by Kong et al. In 2021, which demonstrated that participants on low carb diets significantly improved weight and insulin sensitivity even without caloric restriction. So you don't need to decrease the calories, you need to control the hormones. Leptin is another hormone that we need to focus on. It tells your brain that you're full, but in obesity, your brain becomes leptin resistant or resistant to the effects of leptin. You're actually full, but now your brain thinks you're starving because you're leptin resistant. And to demonstrate this, there was a study in 2010 by Myers et al. Leptin resistance contributes to continued eating and fat storage despite having adequate energy reserves. So it's not about the calories, it's about the hormones. Now, you need the calories. I'm not saying calories are not important. They do factor in, but they are much less important than the hormonal control driving hunger, driving obesity, driving fat storage. And then third, there's another hormone which I've described in detail in previous videos called ghrelin. It is your hunger hormone or your hunger signal. And after dieting, it spikes, making you hungrier than even you were before. So, have you ever wondered why losing weight gets harder the longer you try? That's ghrelin doing its job. Ghrelin is telling you we don't have enough calories coming in. You need to eat more. And that's what ghrelin's purpose is. So you're not failing your diet. Your hormones are driving you back to your old weight. Okay, next we're going to talk about food addiction and some reward hijacking. So highly processed foods act on your brain like drugs. Dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, is supercharged by processed foods, especially combinations. This is what's really key. Combinations of fat, salt, and sugar. Those three things in combination are present in every ultra processed food. They've been designed and chemically engineered to, reward your brain with dopamine surges and dopamine hits, and they're extremely addictive. So there was a study by Gerhardt et al. In 2011, and they looked at MRIs and they showed that on functional MRIs that processed foods light up the same brain areas as cocaine and heroin. So you have to understand that sugar and especially these chemically altered and highly refined processed foods are chemically engineered in a lab to light up your brain like cocaine and heroin. So they are they are addictive, and you need to be aware of that. So another story, there was a teen patient of mine once that told me, I don't even like chips anymore. I can't stop eating them. That's not poor willpower, that's hijack neurology. So that is someone that actually has had their neurology or their neurochemistry hijacked by the food. And they don't even like the taste anymore, but they can't stop eating those chips. So processed foods don't just increase intake, it actually rewires the brain's expectation and reward feedback loops. You need more to feel less satisfied. It's sort of like the cocaine addict who, on their first exposure, got this unbelievable high, and each time subsequently they found that they didn't get the same effects, so they have to increase and increase and increase the dose of the cocaine, still chasing that first high that was their best high. So the processed foods don't just increase the intake or the caloric intake, but rewire the brain's expectations and reward feedback loops. So we also have to talk about the obesogenic environment. This one drives me absolutely insane, and I'll give you a personal anecdote on this one. But we live in a world that's designed to make you fat. and designed to profit from that you growing fat, right? So 70 to 80% of the American diet is now ultra processed and ultra refined. 70 to 80% of our food is designed to make you fat. And food is absolutely everywhere. It's at gas stations, it's on your phone. You can have food delivered in as fast as 15 to 20 minutes. Uber Eats and all of these different apps are readily available, making food extremely available. And portion sizes have doubled since the 1980s. So we live in a world that's really designed to make you fat. And there was a study by Popkin in 2020 that showed that countries adopting a Western diet see obesity and diabetic rates skyrocket within a decade of those foods being introduced to their population. There are some other contributing factors to this obesogenic environment. One is sleep deprivation. So sleep deprivation does increase hunger hormones. So you get a rise in ghrelin and lowered levels of leptin as a result of sleep deprivation. Stress and cortisol push fat into the belly, which is the visceral fat, the most dangerous place to put fat, primarily in the liver and around the abdominal organs. And stress and cortisol also raise blood glucose levels. And then blue lights and screens disrupt melatonin and also disrupt insulin sensitivity. So when you're surrounded by addictive food, deprived sleep, stressed to the max, and told it's your fault, you're set up to fail. And that's not what this is all about. You are not the problem. It is the environment that is the problem. So it's time to change how we fight obesity. The new model isn't about discipline, it's about biology and strategy. And we need to do several things. One, we need to lower insulin levels through dietary changes. We need to remove these ultra processed foods from our diets. We need to improve sleep, stress, and circadian health. And we also need to reframe the narrative. Obesity is not your fault, but reversing it is within your control with the right knowledge and the right application. So remember Susan that I mentioned earlier, after focusing on insulin, removing processed carbs and eating whole foods, she didn't count calories once. But in that time, she lost over 40 pounds and reversed her type 2 diabetes. So if you've ever been blamed or shamed for your weight, know this, it's not about willpower. It's about hormones, it's about the environment, and about the food system, which I call the toxic food environment. So if you have been blamed, if you feel helpless to do anything about it, please drop a comment down below. I'm here to tell you that it's not your fault. It's not a lack of willpower. You're not lazy. You're not lying. Like doctors love to point the finger of blame at you, saying, well, you must be eating more than what I told you to, or you must be, cheating when you say you're not. That's a lie. Um, the food environment, the hormonal control is what's been hijacked, and we need to do something about it. So share this video with someone who's struggling. Let's replace shame with science and start a new conversation around obesity. So let's get the word out. That's what I'm trying to do here. Thank you so much for your time and your focus and your concentration. I hope you understand that obesity is not a lack of willpower, like you see behind me. Um, and, this is something that's kind of been ingrained in us for years. I constantly have to fight the urge when I see someone overweight to go, oh my God, look at that person. And, you know, look how overweight they are. They must not be eating right. They must not. I have to remind myself all the time that it's not their fault. All right, we've been misguided, we've been misled, we're living in a toxic environment. Oh, and I did say I would tell you one more short story. So for myself, even, I'm on the carnivore diet, as I mentioned. Um, and my wife was in the hospital for a week, having brain tumor removed. And Luckily, she's okay. Everybody, I appreciate the kind words, and she's doing much, much better. However, while I was there, I went to the supermarket and I tried to find foods that I could keep at the hospital in a refrigerator that they were nice enough to offer up. And when I was going through the sections, obviously I can't cook, but I tried to buy like deli meat and hot dogs I could heat in a microwave, or do something that was kind of almost finger food. And what I found is on almost every package, there was added sugar. And it was impossible, absolutely impossible, to find foods that didn't have added sugar, didn't have seed oils in them, that that were actually healthy for you and were carb free. And even sliced deli meat. I don't ask me why sliced deli meat has to contain sugar. And again, they're really sneaky about how they do it. On the back of the package, it said, there was meat, there was, salt, and then there was dextrose. And dextrose is sugar. So there's a lot of alternate names that you have to look for and be aware of. And so again, we live in a toxic food environment. We live in an environment where these things, these preservatives, these sugars, these carbohydrates are being added to everything, even things that don't require it. So, again, obesity is not your fault. We all have to be aware that this isn't a lack of willpower. This isn't someone being lazy. This isn't someone who cannot control themselves. This is about food that's been engineered to bypass our brain's control, bypass our hormonal protection. And we need to get the word out and let people know that this is reversible, but it requires a sound strategy. And continue to watch my videos, and I'll share that with you. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.